everybody. This is Rocket Rob 99, and welcome to TLN's Community Podcast. This is episode one in a series of several with regards to current games played by the TLN members within our community. Today, with me right now is CFD underscore 26, and we're talking today about Rainbow Six Siege. We're also hoping to speak to Dreadnought and Boomer 26 to get their impressions as well. Hopefully they'll stop by. CFD, how you doing tonight?
I am good, sir, and yourself.
Very well. So we're talking about Siege. Let me be squarely honest. I don't play this game. CFD and the others that I mentioned as well, several other TLM members, play Rainbow Six Siege. Pretty, I guess that's their main game. So the idea of this series is to get some feedback on what that TLM member feels about that particular title. Why it's their main title is going to be the first question, CFD. Why do you think that you liked Rainbow Six Siege so much that it became your main game?
For me, it's I think mainly it was a time issue. Lately, my gaming time has become minimal and well, next to none. Let's be honest. So I find this game I can get many little games in. So for me, one big long battlefield game that doesn't go right gives me a bad taste for the game, and I get sour and I put it away for a while. But Rainbow Six Siege, I can have 3 or 4 bad games, have a couple of good games, and it all kind of rolls along. We kind of don't get me wrong. There's been many a night we've get a couple of bad games back to back, and all of a sudden we're switching over to something else because it pissed us off. But for me, I think it's the diversity of the game. I can play completely different characters and do completely different jobs, and like I said, you can have a real bad game, or you can turn it around and 5 minutes later you're playing a completely different game and a different team.
How did you first deal with the transition between, the Battlefield series of games, which you enjoyed a lot, where you had, multiple spawn, the ability to spawn. How did you accommodate yourself to deal with the one life situation?
Again, actually, I didn't find it too bad. Unfortunately, the Battlefield series, as we all know, kind of took a nosedive there after Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, and Hardline were kind of a miss to some degree. And I played those games less and less, and when the beta for this game dropped, I found myself actually quite enjoying the game. Again, because it's so short. So I can get killed partway through a game, and 2 or 3 minutes later it's over, and we're ready to start a new one. So it's sometimes frustrating. I mean,
So you're
as
saying
as we all know.
the average round lasts just a few minutes, 2 to 3 minutes?
That's right. Most attack times in the games, I think, are set by default. I think is 7 or 8 minutes. I think for most games.
So when you have a camping son of a bitch that you can't just find, the game will eventually time out.
Exactly. So, let's say you're attacking, and you've got that one camping guy. If he's camping on the objective room, well, yes, you have to push the objective room before that time limit runs out. If he's not camping in the objective room, again, I'm talking about the certain game modes. I'm actually trying to remember what the game modes are called because it's been that long. Um, but it is a timed game, so you can't just sit and camp the entire game. Um, you can, and you might get three out of five kills, or three out of or 4 out of 5 kills, but there's a good chance if you're playing a half decent team, once the first or second guy gets killed by that camper, they're going to know about it, especially if they're in communication. So it's avoid the area, but you don't get a lot of camping in this game, like you would in a Battlefield.
Well, I mean, a lot my interaction and something that kind of bugged me about it, kind of rubbed me the wrong way was, the guy that puts that little hole in the wall, so just the barrel of his gun sneaks out and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of that too, but again, it's tactical. I find there's no or very little glitching per se, in the battlefields or stuff like that, where you get the guy head glitching above, above an object where he knows damn well that you can't hit him from there. And there are points like that in the game, but they're few and far between. It's just every time you see something like that, you realize that those angles were specifically put there for a reason. Um, I'll take a good example. I believe it's the house map, um, which is one of the base maps that everybody is probably familiar with. If you're coming in from the garage, um, you're attacking the garage. Well, you got to watch that first floor window that's above you. Very, very common for the defending team to stick one or two guys at the window and shoot at you as you spawn and try and head towards the window. You just got to be aware of that. The real tricky spot is they actually go to the second floor, blow the floor out, and look through that same window on the first floor without somebody physically standing in the window. And of course, you can't see them as well from the ground. So it's just being aware of all these different angles and the better sides to approach from. And it's I think for me, it's tactical and it's quick, and that's the biggest appeal.
Well, it's kind of surprising to me. I heard, a lot of people talk about, some of the reasons why they don't play Planet Side or Battlefield is because of the scale, which is kind of like, contrary to where TLN started. We were about the scale, the large scale battle of working together as a team. I can say after 250 hours in Battlefield 1 that head glitching is a thing of the past, my friend. It's a different game. You don't have to worry about that because most of the cover is never a right angle. So there's almost no way to head glitch. And I actually covered that in our recent Talon cast, episode 31, which is on the website now. But you never really, you don't mind waiting there and taking that spectator role after you've died.
No, because the most times the spectators do still have a role. If again, if the other team is not completely destroyed all your cameras. Again, if you're defending and you've died early, your team has cameras around the map that they can access. Your team can place, if you have a Valkyrie on your team, that she can place cameras to be watched by either anybody that's alive or anybody that's dead. It just makes life interesting, especially if you're in communication with all five players in your team. You could say, geez, I got somebody on the the north side of the objective. Well, all of a sudden you got one guy covering that and a couple of guys watching the flank. Vice versa, when you're attacking, you could be dead, um, but your teammates can be alive. They can throw drones, the video drones, so they can throw them in, throw them into a common hallway, put it under a door where it's a little less visible, and okay, CFD, you're dead. Keep an eye on that hallway, right? So all of a sudden they can watch the flank as they're making their attack. It's there's a lot of use for a person. Again, it's usually only a few minutes, so not a big deal.
All right. Well, talk about has there been any DLC that came out for this game? I'm not aware. Excuse my ignorance.
Quite a bit of DLC actually since it's been released. So just looking at maps here, I'm actually going to looking through them here now. So I believe I'm looking at 4 DLC maps, five DLC maps since the release of the game that are on here right now. Border, Favela, Skyscraper, Bartlett University, and Coastline. And with each of those DLCs came 2 characters as well.
Now, if you're somebody like me that's just gonna get in the game, what would I have to do to have that access? I mean, does it have like a premium pass or something like that?
Yep, same idea. So instead of premium pass, it's season pass in Rainbow Six. However, all characters are also purchasable through the Rainbow Six credits that you earn through the game, or like the XP that you earn through the game. You can purchase the characters as you go. Um, it would take you a long time and playing a lot to be able to unlock all the characters via XP. Most of us have bought season pass, but the nice thing about it is I guess another thing I really like about the game too is, I mean, you can be a level 200 or you can be a level two. In terms of the base operators or your standard operators, there's no extra guns. There's no extra, you know, purchasable weapons that have one advantage over the other. When you have a character, you have access to all their weapons. You don't have access right away to all of their accessories, so their sights and their grips and so on and so forth. But again, they're pretty minimal cost to those, so you can adjust the weapon how you see fit. But most characters have two or three main weapons, ranging from shotguns to sniper rifles or semi-autos. So for me, I think that's one big thing is there's not, aside from characters, each character has the same amount of weapons.
Okay, so it's more of a variant type situation as far as the characters go. So, so I mean, it's just so I can understand. So, if you went with one particular character type, which has a certain set of skills, you can run with a certain series style of weapon. And then there are other characters, not necessarily in the same category, that can have access to that weapon, but they have different access to gadgets and attachments.
That's right, and really, they don't make a huge difference in the play of the game. Or I shouldn't say. For me, I find it's those gizmos aren't so much to give an advantage, but they're to adapt to your style of play. Like for me, I wouldn't consider myself an accurate shooter by any means, so I'm always looking for that weapon that's going to reduce my recoil and so that I'm firing in burst, I'm firing on target most of the time.
Like
Whereas some
most of
people may be
us.
looking for the, yeah, exactly. Most people might be looking for that one that hip fires better. Well, I'm not a hip fire. I'm an aim down scope all the time, every time kind of guy. So that's disadvantage to me, but it's just my style of play.
Well, it's very similar to me as well. I'm an ADS guy now, myself. So, I mean, sometimes to a fault, and
Oh,
it like
110%.
if you're used to being ADS on an assault rifle, but now you're running an LMG, sometimes that's not the way to go.
Exactly. So I'll take this game. Um, there's some characters in here that have different foregrips for their guns. Um, so your standard foregrip gives you nice aim and nice recoil, but your angled grip gives you a little less, but gives you quicker aim down scope abilities, right? So you can quicker change from a hip fire to an aim down sight, which sometimes is a benefit for me because I need that extra second.
Yeah, and I guess that type of progression is, or I should say, variance is true in many FPS. I think they just do it differently. I always liked the weapon modeling in Rainbow Six. I always thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it is, and they do constantly check on it. So, one thing I really like about Rainbow Six, and every time there's an update comes out, basically what they do is they run lists of the most used characters and the least used characters, and obviously the game modes as well. But they'll take, they check. I think it's weekly. They check the least used characters in the game, and when that character runs least used for a while, they buff that customer. They buff that character to try and come up with some way to make that character more appealing to people.
Oh, that's interesting. I mean, it seems to me that there's some similarities to other squad based shooters like this. I mean, you can see a lot of similarities to Overwatch and how that's a tactical shooter. So it seems to me that in Siege and Overwatch, building your squad so that each player is supports or enhances somebody else in the squad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was you and I talked about this example earlier. Thermite. Thermite is a character that has an exothermic charge that will breach through reinforced walls. Well, if you're the defending person, you put up that reinforced wall. You could have your characters that are going to, um, your bandit who has an electric charge, or your mute who has a communications jammer. If they put those on the other side of the wall, your thermite's useless. You can't use it on that wall until you get rid of that device that's blocking it. So, a complement to thermite would be Thatcher. Thatcher throws an EMP grenade that would disable those devices, or Twitch. Twitch has a electric shock drone that she can drive in and disable those devices as well. So it's a lot of different characters can complement each other in different ways, and there's a lot of times you get really unlikely pairings of characters, but they do work together.
So, in other words, so answer me this. So, if you had a squad of underranked players, but that the squad was selected, with that in mind, high skill and as far as gadgets complementing one another. So, in other words, a squad can be stronger than the actual player based on if they are the right squad built for that attack, that assault, or that defense, depending on what they're doing.
Oh, exactly. It does. But that also works the other way too. Occasionally, we run into guys that are run the full squad of recruits, which basically is just the random character that has a random set of weapons. You can choose your recruit per se, but he's not one of the specialty characters. But we run into guys, the high ranked group of five that's playing with all recruits, and they're just going to shatter you based on skill alone. That's all there's going to be. So
Yeah,
it's you
yeah.
do run into that, but there's ways to counteract them too, right? If you are very strategic and you spread yourselves out enough that they can't wipe you all out in one go, you can pick them off. You can be strategic about it, but it's uh it's interesting, and like I said, it can be frustrating. You run into these guys some nights, and they just seem to get the better of you every night. So that's when it's time to back out and switch servers.
Yeah, I guess that's true in any kind of shooter. I mean, the game's over a year old now. I mean, is it still fresh for you?
Yeah, I think so. Like we said, we were talking about maps earlier as well. There's 5 DLC maps. Of those 5 DLC maps, I think there's only two that I'm confident to say that I actually know. Actually, I'm just looking through them here now. Yeah, that's kind of a stretch too. But I'll say no, no, that's not true. I think I do know some of them fairly well, but some of the newer maps, if you're not playing them all the time, you don't know the ins and outs of, okay, if I'm on the first floor, what room is above me on the second floor? Like what, or vice versa. If I'm on the second floor and I want to breach through the floor, where exactly am I going to end up on the first floor? Like am I close to where I want to be? And it's getting to knowing the maps is a huge advantage in this game.
Well, I think more so in a game like that as opposed to in Battlefield. I mean, let's just take Battlefield 4 or Battlefield 1. Even between those two titles, I mean, knowing the maps in Battlefield 4 served you a lot better than it does in Battlefield 1. You could know every inch of every map in Battlefield 1 and still be finding in a situation where you're at a disadvantage. And in Battlefield 4, knowing the maps was important because of similar things. But I think in this dynamic of being able to come through a floor, and knowing where you're going to fall into that map, I can see how that has a lot more, effect on your success, at the
Yeah,
end of the day.
it's a strategic advantage, right? It's knowing the map in Battlefield 1, I don't think is going to give you any kind of strategic advantage, unless it's, some sort of a little building that somebody knows one way into, but yeah, the whole map on Rainbow Six is like that. If you know the map and the other team doesn't, that's an advantage. Um, Whereas, like you said, Battlefield 1, I don't think that makes a difference, which is good. Which, don't get me wrong, somebody like me playing Battlefield 1 definitely enjoys that.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, I guess that really, look, I played Counter Strike and I liked it. But I could never get past that amount of time after dying because, you know, those games have a large learning curve. Rainbow Six has a large learning curve, more so than Battlefield. If you played other you played one Battlefield title, you've played them all. Well, the maps and the weapons and knowing how to play those weapons is important, just as it is with Siege. But I think that to get to the, you know, I wouldn't say competitive level, but to a level of enjoyment where you're staying alive more than 5 seconds. You know, it takes a little bit longer to reach that level in a game like Siege, where there are much more nuances to every room and every map and every building. Uh, that skill or experience in the game serves you well. However, I also think that with Siege there is a certain amount of I don't know. I just never really liked that part of it. Sitting there, oh, I got killed, and in Battlefield, there's instant gratification. I'm right back into the game, and even though I fucked up because I didn't shoot that guy right or I missed him when I shot at him, I can still be part of the win. And in Siege, the rounds are so short. I guess I didn't feel that way. I didn't play any of the other modes. When the last time I played this was over a year ago when it first came out, and I haven't played it since. I was in the beta. I didn't like the beta, and then when the game came out, it wasn't too much of a fan. So I'm looking forward to to giving it a try here and seeing how I do with it. But at the end of the day, I don't think I'll be a convert. So, but what's coming down the path? Is there going to be a Siege 2?
Like I said, we were into the second year of the game here. They just launched year two, so another season pass came out. So I'd say definitely for this year, we're looking at just this one and the content to come with it. There is more. There is again more DLC coming down the pipe for this year as well. Not. I haven't kept up to date on it lately. I don't know what the latest leaks are on it or anything like that, but it's um, it's definitely interesting and just it's constantly changing, but a lot of the base game is the same. So I mean, a lot of people do find it repetitive. Even our guys, we find it repetitive, and sometimes you play it a couple nights in a row. It's like, all right, time to go play something different. So we throw Battlefield in, or we throw Rocket League in, or whatever it is we just to get something different. We just happen to be the same group of guys that are on at the same time most nights, and we we're usually texting each other during the day saying, "Hey, if you're going to be on tonight, I might be around," and somebody says, "Well, I'm not going to be on until later," and so we'll do what we have to do earlier and then get on later with the same group of guys. But it changes.
Well, that brings up a good question. What happens when your boys aren't around? Can you still, do you think that you enjoy the game as much?
Probably not, but probably due to my own not trying either because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll open up a party and I'll sit in party chat as opposed to getting in game chat. um, Now that's not all the time either. Usually, because we can still hear the people that are in the game chat. A lot of times you'll just kind of wait to hear what they have to say, or you see their microphones flashing off and on. And if I see a lot of guys talking, I'll switch over for a second. And if you get that 8 or 9 year old kid, well, 9 times out of 10, I'm just gonna bow out and back to my party chat in case some more guys come along.
Do you run into that often in the game?
Not often. We you run into the guy. You gotta realize too. Sometimes you get into a game and you got one guy that's brand new, has had the game for a week, and you got the guy who's had it since day one. And I'm guilty of it as the next guy too. This guy's doing something really stupid and you can't believe it, and you just want to shoot him in the head, even though he's on your own team. But you got to realize he's just coming. He's new to the game, so those are the ones you tend to get in game chat and just sometimes you got to defend them from the other guys, but sometimes it's easier just to get in and try and help them along with the games. I mean, it's only 5v5 games, so if you got that one guy that's new and he's dying all the time, you're 4v5 all the time, and it's in your best interest to help him along and try and keep him alive, or or at least put him in the line of fire where you need him.
Well, yeah, that's back to what I was saying earlier. I mean, if I'm going to pick up the title, and I guess some of you who are watching this now have already been watching me play and die. But you know, I'm willing to give it a shot. But I think that long as the guys in the squad realize that this player is our weak link, so what is the best way to use that? You know, I mean, you can always turn a negative to a positive in this style of game.
Yeah, for sure. Like there's the different game modes that are in it too. Like, if you're playing a bomb game mode where you're the attacking team that's carrying a diffuser, well, one of your teammates is carrying the diffuser. So there's arguments for both sides. Well, do you let the new guy carry the diffuser while you guys go in and clear the room, or do you send him in first and let him help clear the room while one of your team has the diffuser? I mean, it's six of one, half a dozen the other, because the diffuser can be recovered if somebody's killed and drops it. The enemy team can't recover it, but they can cover it if they know where it is and it gets dropped and they see it. They can sit and camp it until somebody tries to pick it up. But the game doesn't have to be won by the diffuser either. We can kill all the other teams and the game's over too. So it's kind of it's kind of a toss up, and different teams would employ different strategies, and it depends on the night.
Is all right, well, you know, we're going to bring the first segment to an end here in a minute, but is it important to have a strong leader?
Um, no, I don't think it's necessarily. I should say it. I don't think it's necessary to have a strict leader or a good leader. If you have five guys that can effectively communicate, and not rage, which some of us are very prone to raging, and I'm raising my hand real high right now. Um, but the biggest thing is five guys that can effectively communicate and pick characters to kind of complement each other, or at least game styles or play styles that work with each other. No, you don't need one leader. Some nights when you get some people on, you gotta take leader, you gotta be leader and get guys moving in the same direction. But it's it kind of goes both ways. Quick note on two different game modes. There's your casual game modes. There's your ranked game modes. One of the biggest differences in ranked game modes is there is a shorter time limit. So if you're playing a lot of casual games and you're taking your time, as the attacking team, trying to make your entrances into the buildings and attack from different strategic points, you've got a lot less time to do so in a ranked game. So that's kind of where a leader takes place. And okay, we got to move now. It's it can be different for sure.
All right, well, you know, I mean, I could see how it's more of a coordinated effort as opposed to one guy saying, "Oh, let's do this or let's do that."
Yeah, exactly. It's not uncommon for us, again, like say five guys. I always use attacking as an example, but say five guys attacking. Not uncommon to have two guys in one direction, three guys in the other, just to break things up a bit. Um, but there's also game modes where we'll stack five guys up on a door or stack five guys up at a one side of a building, just to make a strong presence on one side. But it varies. Game mode, different map, different strength of players. It's one of those things. The more you play it, the more you, unfortunately, the more you see other teams do stuff, and you're like, oh, that was. It sucks, and you get killed, and you're like, oh, they played that well. You store that one in the memory bank and, and try and use it again later.
So using the tactics of the game itself, you can appreciate it when it gets used well against you. You mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and even sometimes you think, oh, that's kind of cheap. You put that little, we call them murder holes. He puts that little murder hole in a wall somewhere low, around a corner somewhere where you can't see it. But it's not exploiting the game. It's playing smart. You know, there's a lot of things about this game that wouldn't be realistic in real life. If you look at half the gadgets these guys are carrying, it's probably not a realistic kind of thing. But
Well,
um,
it's
it's
still a
cool.
video game.
Oh, absolutely, it's a video game. But things like that, like making a murder hole, or not uncommon for guys to blow out a hatch in the floor. of the room they're defending, and all of a sudden you run into the room and you fall down through the hatch and you're into the you're into the first floor. It's like but it's not an exploit. It's using the map that you were given, or using the skills that you were given, and trying to best your enemy.
All right, we're welcoming Dreadnought 24 to the session now here, the podcast. So, Dread, how are you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing pretty good. Just wasted a few hours watching that new Fast and Furious movie.
Why, it wasn't good?
I did it because I love my girlfriend, not because I like those movies.
All right, so we're continuing now with our discussion on Siege, and CFW and I have been talking here for a while about the game and different things he likes about it and so on. Um, so CFD and you were just talking as we started, brought you into the recording here. Uh, you haven't played the game in a while. You're playing Destiny. Why is it that you put Siege down?
Of all the shooters that I've ever played, it is easily the most frustrating when you don't do well. It still has a fair bit of issues that I think need to be tweaked, but overall, I'd still say it's probably my favorite shooter.
What issues do you mean?
It seems like there's a bunch of hit detection issues. Like you'll be sitting there just shooting somebody in the head and just nothing happens. Next thing you know, you're dead.
Would you call it a hit detection issue or a netcode?
That's a good question. I'm not really sure. I just know that that's been reoccurring issue, and I know I'm not the only one who's noticed that either.
How's the
Yeah,
lag
and
in
they
it?
Overall, I'd say it's not too bad at all. You don't find too many. It's not like Battlefield where you'll be going up against like Brazilians and stuff like that all the time. It's not anywhere near that level.
Well, let me speak for Battlefield for a second. You very rarely go against Brazilians. They have their own servers now in South America, so they pretty much stay to themselves. Very rarely now. But CFD, you had something to add there. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I know there were issues with what they actually called the size of the hitbox. So I'd call them actual hit detection issues. They were kind of, the shapes of their hitboxes weren't matching the shapes of the characters and the weapons and stuff like that, or some of the the maps themselves, or objects in the maps. The hit detection markers weren't registering the way they should, due to some of the shapes. But I wouldn't call it net code per se.
What other issues Dreadnought made you initially put it down? Dread, you still there?
Yeah, sorry about that. Wasn't hitting the button. Really, the only issues that I was having with it is you can get burnt out on it at some point. It's just super competitive, and sometimes you just want to relax. And Destiny was just a nice break.
You know, I think that's pretty much true of all shooters. I really don't care how good the gamer is, but I mean, those that game with me know that I have a limit of amount of time I can handle a first-person shooter at night. 2.5, 3 hours max, and then I have to play something else or otherwise because I get too frustrated or bored. When you're playing Dread, when you're playing Siege, how long do your game sessions usually last?
Oh God. Honestly, it can last like upwards of 5 to 6 hours if I have off the next day.
Seriously, you could really put that kind of time in?
Dude, I'm a no lifer, big time. I know CFD can vouch for it. When he's on, I'm pretty much on all the time.
Truth.
Yeah, right.
It's something to point out too. And you and I had spoke earlier in casual games versus the ranked matches. A ranked match can be a pretty long match. What are they, Dread? First to six? Is that how that works? First to four, I guess.
Yeah, it's first to four.
So
first to
that's
4, and you have to win by 2. So if it's tied 3-3, and you actually have to win 5-3 in order you have to win 2 more on top of that to get the win.
so in other words, you got each round is somewhere between 5 to 7 minutes, and then you have to have as many as 8 rounds, eight rounds to win the game or more.
Well, each round's actually only 3 minutes long, I believe. If you're doing ranked, it might even be less than that. You'd have to ask CFD about that one. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was trying to remember earlier too. I think the casual matches I think were 5, and the ranked were 3. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that could be right. Actually, that makes more sense.
What is it, Dread, for you that really kind of latches you on to Siege as opposed to other shooters? Because, like you mentioned, you have Destiny and you have Battlefield and you have other games as well. Well, why do you think? What is it about Siege that you think that keeps making you want to play it?
At least from a competitive standpoint, you're not going to find anything that's on the same level. At least not that I've played. I know it requires the most teamwork out of any game I've played. I mean, besides maybe the raid in Destiny, there has to be a lot of coordination, communication, and you have to be a good shot. If you're not a good shot, you're not going to make it.
Have you played Overwatch?
Yes, sir, I have.
How would you compare Overwatch to Siege?
In, term,
Well, in
in
terms of
terms of the,
how your squad is assembled and all that.
I think there's probably a little bit less thought put into the characters that you choose in Siege. It's more Overwatch is more like specific roles, whereas Siege is more just your playstyle, what you're comfortable with.
How do you deal with this? Was a question I had asked for CFD. I'm going to ask you. How do you were you a fan of the one death, one life, one death? The Counter Strike level of thinking.
I like it a lot, actually. It's the most rewarding when you actually win. It's just I like the challenge of it compared to other games. You actually have to be careful and plan out what you're gonna do.
Did you ever play Counter Strike?
I have not played Counter Strike, but I've had friends who've played it, and I've seen gameplay of it on YouTube and everything.
Okay. Um. So you think you get the most satisfaction from playing the game Siege other than other games? I mean, did you feel that way also about like games like The Division?
The Division, I hated that game. I'll be honest with you. That's not even a good comparison. Division was terrible, but Siege is easily the most rewarding game, I think, in terms of the competitive aspect of it.
Well, do you think there's enough content to support Siege moving on more than another year, or is there any word that you're hearing about Siege 2, so to speak?
I haven't heard anything about Siege 2, but I can foresee Siege lasting a while because right now there's really not too much out there that's like Siege at the moment.
So, being that you came into TLN, what a community that was initially founded on large scale battles. How do you think that you transition from a team based shooter where it was a large team to a small team? How do you think that transition worked for you?
Putting in a lot of hours into the game. I had people like CFD and Boomer and Moyer, who's not TLN, but I'm sure a bunch of guys would recognize the name. I already had that group, that base group there. Empire's another one, Dark Wolf. We already had good communication skills with each other, had kind of a repertoire. So it wasn't as difficult as you'd think, but it definitely did take some time to kind of get a feel for it because, like I said before, it's a lot more challenging than any other shooter I've ever played.
How do you feel about the competitive side of it?
Say that again.
How do you feel about the competitive side of Siege?
The competitive side?
Well, in other words, you're going when you're on the ranked servers and you're going against higher level or teams that are where the players are better, so to speak.
Uh, it's it can be more challenging. You'll see a lot of things that you would never see in like a casual game. Like this is another issue that you'll be seeing with Siege is there's a lot of spawn problems. People can run out from the defender side and just kill you the second you spawn if you choose the wrong spawn. So map knowledge is pretty huge in this game. Um, sorry about that. My girlfriend's talking to me. CFD, you want to take over for a second?
Sure, where'd you leave off? What do you want me to say?
No, I'll take over for both of you. Shit.
I had two conversations going on. I had Dark Wolf talking to me on PSN also.
Well, I guess these are the challenges when we do podcasts these days. I got to tell you, that's one of the hardest things. A lot of folks had asked why do I not do Talon casts more frequently, and you know what? Like, part of the thing is I've been told by many people who have responded about the Talon cast that said that the best ones were ones where there was more than just me talking, and I agree with that. I mean, I don't like to just listen to my own voice. Believe me. However, I mean, it's difficult. Everybody's schedule is so difficult and crowded these days. It's hard to get folks together, and we all have our home responsibilities at home. So it is difficult to get folks together. But as we move forward here, with regards to Siege, um, one of the things that I myself, as I've said here with both Dreadnought and CFD, is the one life, one death, that Counter Strike mentality or play style to a game. I mean, there have been other games that have been out that had that formula before, and I've played them, and frankly, I couldn't begin to try and rattle off what games they were. Um, but it always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And one of the things like I hang on with Battlefield is that I thirst for that action. I mean, it was one of the things that when my first person shooter days were started with Mag, and I mean, Jesus, the name of the game was Massive Action Game. That action is what I thirst for. The thing with Siege, I think, for me, that kind of also hinders is that low. But I guess that anticipation and knowing where the enemy's going to come from or where they're going to pop out, and you have that just that split second to make sure that you get the kill.
Oh, listen, there's nothing more frustrating than I'm definitely not a top-notch player in this game. Like, I mean, most of the guys I play with are quite far ahead of me in terms of skill, but there's nothing worse than being on a roll, having a couple of really good games, getting a kill or two, every game, and then you roll in this game and you're going, okay, I'm going to pick this character and I'm going to do this job, and you spawn in, and 5 seconds later you're dead. You're like, motherfucker. There's just nothing else that just drives you crazy. But if you settle down quickly enough, you can be a help to your team. Whether it's looking at the cameras, looking at the drones, where did that guy shoot you from? Maybe he was in a weird window somewhere. There's valuable information you can give even though you're dead. It's just having the common sense to calm down enough to do it, which again, a lot of us don't. We rage.
And that's one of the biggest draws of this game to me is just it requires so much effort and teamwork and communication and everything like that to just get a win because you have to be on point, especially in the competitive side of it, to be successful.
What's your let's start with you, CFD. What's your favorite character out of all of them?
Oh man, favorite character. Um, I'm looking at them right now, but I got to pick one. I would have to say Frost, which coincidentally is a Canadian Joint Task Force character. Frost, for those of you who don't know, has like a mechanical, almost like a bear trap. It can be put randomly on the floor, mostly on the floor, or like at the bottom of stairs, top stairs, or windows, in front of doors. Um, 9 times out of 10 doesn't completely kill the person, but downs them. So they're down but not out. I like the weapon choices with her. Also, it's the thing I like about it the most. I think is you down the enemy, And if you can kind of wait them out, you usually get somebody that's going to come and try and revive them. So a lot of times you get the two for the price of one.
Okay, and Dread, same question for you.
Oh, sorry, don't got that. Like I said, I know I'm going to catch some flack for this because I have in the past when I've mentioned it, but I think my favorite character would probably be Capital because the weapons are very good that he has. The LMG, I can't remember the name of the other one. The assault rifle is very good as well. He's got these flame arrows that you can use. So if you know there's somebody hiding in a corner, you just shoot one of the flame arrows in there, and there's pretty much not a damn thing they can do about it.
Okay, what's the for you? Same this question, Dread. What is the character that you most hate going against?
That's got to be either Montaigne or Blackbeard. Probably hate going up against Montaigne more, especially with an organized team, because you can't turn your back on them because you know the second you do, they're going to shoot you. But then you also know there's going to be another teammate coming up behind them to shoot you in the face. So there's really not much you can do unless you got the help of your teammates there.
CFD, do you agree with him, or do you have a different hated character?
Definitely don't like Montang. I don't know. Cavero's a character I don't like to go against, as is Pulse. Uh, Pulse being one of the characters that has the heartbeat detector, and Cavera being the character that can has the silent step and is stealthy, so they can sneak up on you, and when they knife you, they actually interrogate you and learn the location of all your teammates.
Ugh. You agree with that one too, Dread?
Kavera is the character that the assholes of Rainbow Six play. Like no one likes going up
But
against that character.
but don't you play Cavera all the time?
I never said I wasn't an asshole.
Well, I tell you, I'm starting to have a new affinity for being an asshole in video games. In Battlefield 1, last couple of weeks, I've been running kind of alone, and I got to tell you, I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit too much. Staying out and getting multiple kills with the tank and being a fucking whore and coming out 43-1 and but this is the satisfaction goes away really fast. But I guess there is something to be said for being an asshole in a video game. Uh, Go ahead,
Rob,
Drew.
there is no honor in video games. That's a lesson that it took me a while to learn.
Yeah, well, my sons have both told me about this. Dad, you are just too goddamn honorable, because I'm the guy that stops on the side of the road when the guy broke down with his car, and I'm always the guy that tries to help people wherever he can. But my younger son says, Dad, just fucking stab him. So
I mean, that's one option.
let's not get too far off on Battlefield. What's your favorite map, Dread? What's your favorite map?
Oh God, my memory's awful. I think it's just called House. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called.
Yeah, I guess that's the one I played the most. CFD, do you have a different choice?
I would have to agree on House. Just again, it's one of the basic maps. Everybody knows a little tricks and corners to it. Yeah, no, I think that's probably one of them.
Favorite weapon, CFT?
Favorite weapon. Now you're throwing one at me. Um, Let me see here.
That's an easy
What
one.
do I
Say
like?
them all now.
Which one?
Oh, I gotta look up the name now. It's Jaeger's assault rifle, the 416 carbine.
I don't mind that weapon, but like I said, the ones I usually get to are like Frost or Fuse or something like that. Those are the ones I actually get kills with.
All right. Do you have a particular skill or gadget that you're really badass at, and if so, which one?
Again, I got to come back to Frost. For me, the bear traps. I seem to get a lot of kills with the bear traps, placed in weird random locations, and just tends to work.
Dread, same question.
I like Valkyrie's cameras. For whatever reason, I have a lot of success being able to hide them and put them in locations that are going to be really valuable to the team.
Yes. Completely underused character, but used well by Dread.
If there was something that you could have them take out of the game, what would it be? CFD.
The ability to spawn camp for me. I think the ability to see right into each spawns, right off the hop. I think.
I would have to say the plane map. I think they should just completely remove that and never put it back in the game.
Oh, really?
Just an atrocious dude. It's the worst map, man. I mean, you get the people who run out at spawn every single round, and if you don't spawn on the right side, if you forget whatever, you're dead, and then you have to sit there for however many minutes and wait for your team to finish the roundup. It's annoying.
Okay. What would be the thing that you most want them to add to the game? CFD.
Add to the game.
He's throwing some curveballs now.
Yeah, real curveballs. Maybe a little more choice in weapons. I know most characters have 2 to 3 weapons each to choose from, but maybe a little change up of the weapons. I know that they nerfed the shotguns a while back, which was a great thing because they were severely overused. Um, I don't know. Something they should add. I'll have to think about that one. Dread, what do you got?
I mean, it's like you said, I think they did a pretty damn good job of balancing things out in this game for the most part. I know shotguns, like you said there for a while, were pretty overpowered. The one thing I would like to see, and this is just, I mean, I'm biased, but I would like to see more viable gameplay with things like snipers instead of just having one sniper character.
Okay. What type of map would you like to see, Dreadnought? I mean, they've covered. I mean, look, the basic core of Siege is, it's an assault. Okay, and I think that there are certain limitations to environmental factors when that at the core is, an assault defend of a very confined space. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a lot of constraints for what they can do for maps. What kind of map would you want to see?
I always thought it'd be interesting if instead of just one building, if it'd be almost like an apartment complex type deal. I think that would be interesting to see, although it would be hard with the limited number of players in a match.
Okay, CFD, do you have a type of map that you would want to see, like an apartment building or something like that?
Yeah, the apartment building was kind of cool. I do have to agree with Dread on the just kind of getting back to the map we don't want to see is the plane map. The problem with assaulting the plane is, for example, I don't know what direction it actually runs, but you can only attack north and south. You can't come in east and west because you can come above and you can attack from above, but you can only come north south. Versus a building with 4 walls, you can come in northeast, southwest. Like it's it's versatile. It gives you a lot more options. But the apartment complex would be cool. Maybe something even a little more outdoors with maybe some smaller outbuildings or something like that. I know we do have some maps like Favela, which kind of like that, but um, yeah, the apartment complex or like big condo complex, something like that would be an interesting idea.
Yeah, I think the whole outdoor idea would be interesting. I just don't know how they could do that with keeping it the same, like keeping the game the same as it
Yeah,
is. You know what I mean?
with the current character load too, most of those characters wouldn't complement an outdoor map of some sort. They're made for an indoor setting.
Like the gunplay in this game is just incredible to me. When it actually registers the hits that you get, but the rewarding feeling that you get just from hitting those headshots or five manning a whole team is just it's fantastic.
Well, I guess that you're giving us some ideas. If what do you? Well, let me just say this, Dred. How long do you think that this title can remain active, or do you think that the next hot 5v5, one life, one kill game, do you think it'll bump Siege out if it does everything that Siege does, but does it better? Do you think it'll bump it out?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think Ubisoft in general is just a lazy company. I don't. There's still issues in this game that have been around since day one, and they just haven't done a damn thing about it. If another company comes out, maybe Dice, for example, and does a game similar to this, I think Rainbow Six would die. But that's just my opinion.
CFT.
I kind of have to agree, but if you start looking at the large scope of this game outside of PS4, this game is real hot on PC and Xbox in the starting to be in the gamers world net. Um, it's or sorry, in the pro gaming world, I guess we'll say. Um, it's getting pretty huge. Some of the battles that take place, but um, PS4 is kind of hit or miss on that level. So I don't know how long it can last. Another year or two, maybe, but I definitely think there may be
Well,
something else comes along. I don't know if it'll be on this level.
well, do you think that it's good enough now at its current level to be an esports game?
Uh,
I
again,
yeah,
go ahead.
hit or
CFT.
miss. Sorry, man. No, it's I don't know how polished it is on other platforms. Again, it's as an ESL game, it hasn't quite taken off on PS4. It's there, but it's not as big as it is on PC or Xbox. But I don't. I think it could be if it was polished a little more by Ubisoft and a little more care was taken. I definitely think it could be a
Exactly,
big title.
exactly. They're just Ubisoft is lazy. That's the only issue I have with this game is the issues from day one that are still around.
Well, I mean, I get, the community for it is pretty strong from what I've seen, and but I tend to agree with both of you on Ubisoft as a developer, publisher slash publisher, and it's not that it ever detracted me from the game, but the cartoonish nature. I like more simulation games. I guess that kind of is more appealing to me, but overall, I mean, I guess for the two of you, I guess it's high marks all around for this title. As far as all the things we've talked about here. Is there anything else that you would want to comment on as far as Siege at this point? We'll start with you, Dread.
I just think this game, with the people that we have in TLN, the personality types that we have in TLN, I think the game really should be bigger within the clan than what it is. It's really surprising that I can only find like a handful of people who are down to play on a regular basis.
Well, hopefully these type of podcasts will help that out. CFD, do you have anything else to add?
I agree exactly what Dred's saying, but on that hand, it is a different game in that respect too. To keep in mind, there is a limit of without playing a local match, 5 guys is the most you can have in a game. A lot of times you'll see us will have 5, 6, maybe even 7 in a server, but usually that's with the intention that 1 or 2 guys are getting off soon, so 6 and 7 are going to be taking their place. So don't be offended if we're not inviting you in. It's a game that has very sensitive audio cues. You can hear the guy walking on the other side of the wall behind you, and you can know that he's coming. So we minimize noise in a party and stuff
Do
like
you
that. But
guys?
by all
Well, I would
means,
love to
shoot
follow
us
one of you
invites
guys.
or jump in the party and
Roll
we'll
to
sort it out.
anything.
Just don't come
put
into
your
my
thing
party
here,
screaming and
or
yelling, or
do
I'll bounce
this,
you
or
right
do
back
that.
out.
Give me some free instruction.
That
That'd be
Where you
true.
at?
I agree with him
Around
there.
in
There's
circles.
while I
You
said
want
there
to go up
are a
this
lot of
wall over here?
personality
Come over here
types
with
and
me.
all that, it's just
No,
at the same time
Or do you want to?
it gets
Rob, follow me.
annoying
Right
when
behind you.
people
Here, follow him.
do talk a little bit too
Now,
much. Like I know it's just a
let me
video
explain
game, but when
things,
we're
Rob,
doing
real quick.
competitive, we try and take it as serious as
The
we
point
can
of the
because
drone
that makes it
is
the most
obviously
fun for
position
us.
positioning.
I could totally agree with that. And with that, we're going to wrap up this podcast for tonight. And I want to thank CFD and Dreadnought24 for coming out and helping introduce Rainbow Six Siege to the other members of the TLN communities and to all those other folks out there that are not in a community like TLN. You can come check us out on our website, Facebook, Twitter, and Reddit. For TLN, this is Rocket Rob 99, and this has been the first in our series of TLN Community Podcast. We'll catch you on the next one, which will be for Destiny, coming up in the upcoming days. Don't forget to like and subscribe TLN on our YouTube channel, and you can check us out anytime you like. Till next time, we'll see you out on the battlefield.